Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me a few minutes this afternoon to make a few comments on the flooding and the state's response to the current challenge that we face. And then secondly, I want to comment on the special session of the legislature that was just completed. In reference to the flooding in northeast Arkansas, yesterday, as you know, I went by helicopter over Sharp County, Randolph County, Lawrence County, and I saw it firsthand as a result of that, but also my communication with A.J. Geary, the director of ADAM. I have authorized additional resources to be applied to what is already in place. And so today I strengthened the deployment of National Guard resources to the impacted areas in northeast Arkansas. Currently, we have 108 Arkansas National Guard that's deployed. Of those, we also have 25 National Guard vehicles that are prepared for high water rescue as needed. We have 4 high water teams that are deployed in the affected areas, including 70 personnel that are engaged in security and traffic control in the impacted areas. These are necessary as the areas might be evacuated as a result of a mandatory order that we follow it up with security personnel. In addition to the Arkansas National Guard deployment, we have a significant role of the Arkansas State Police and their emergency response teams. We have 23 Arkansas State Police personnel in their response teams that are engaged in search and recovery efforts as well as communication support in fact, yesterday as I was in Pocahontas, they were very grateful for the Arkansas State Police Communication Center because their facilities had to be evacuated. We have over 500 evacuations that have been completed by the personnel deployed. Today they have identified 9 levee breaches in Randolph County alone. 3 of these breaches of the levees appear to be categorized as major, and this of course impacts the flooding in Lawrence County, which we're watching very carefully. Right now, there's 27 counties that have declared emergency situations in their counties. I've followed this up by statewide declarations as well. We currently have 7 fatalities in Arkansas, and 1 child is still being looked for. As a result of the mandatory evacuations, there are 6 shelters that are open in the impacted areas. And my admonition to the public, particularly in northeast Arkansas, is to listen to the local authorities, and if they order evacuation, that you do so quickly. The local authorities and the response teams have more information on the rising floodwaters, on the weather, on the circumstances, and the need for the evacuation. And so don't second guess them, but heed the admonition and the order to evacuate. Secondly, for members of the public, is whenever you see flooded waters over a roadway or a highway, stop and turn around. Do not try to go through it. That's an important directive. And then finally, avoid the need for sightseeing. There is a temptation to be out, to look around, and that gets in the way of the emergency personnel. And so I wanted to give you that report. We're continuing to monitor it, be engaged in providing the support that is needed for our local responders. I also wanted to thank the General Assembly for quick work in the special session. And I see Representative Michelle Gray that's here. I want to thank her. The Speaker of the House, the Senate Pro Tem provided great leadership during the session. My goal was that we come in and we leave within 3 days. We've accomplished that purpose, but even with that time frame, the members educated themselves. They thoughtfully debated it. If there were any weak spots, they found it. And they worked through that legislative process very thoroughly, and I was delighted with the result that we accomplished the authority that I needed to seek the waiver for Arkansas Works to strengthen its reform efforts in terms of work and responsibility and cost savings measures. And then we also created the long-term reserve fund. And this generated a significant amount of debate, but it's noteworthy that even though it took a 2/3 vote to accomplish this, we were able to get that 2/3 vote to establish the long-term reserve fund, and it's the first time in the history of this state that I'm aware of that we have a funded long-term reserve in this state that should put us in better financial position and a better position as we're reviewed by the financial markets, industrial prospects, and bond raters as well. I was pleased that we had bipartisan support for much of the legislation. It's good to work across the aisle to accomplish these. We didn't always have uniformity in that, but we did have significant bipartisan support for the legislation that I'm grateful for. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
On the Medicaid changes, I guess first of all, how quickly do you plan on signing those into law? And given the fact that there may be another vote on repeal legislation today or tomorrow,
in Washington.
Yeah, in Washington.
I was going to say, did I miss something here?
How confident are you moving forward with these changes, with that still up in the air, and just with all the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act and what will happen to so people that would be moved off of the expanded coverage of your proposal?
I'm more confident than ever that we're doing the right thing by moving forward with our reform now. Because if the House passes a repeal, replace, and reform bill, which I think they should, then it goes to the Senate, which is going to be a long debate and discussion there. There'll be a slow process for implementation. And so we're in a position to make adjustments now that I believe will fit in very well with the reform efforts that they're trying in Washington. So I'm very confident with where we are. I think that we will be national leaders in this effort. But also we have to look out for the state of Arkansas, and this puts us in a position to make sure that the Medicaid expansion, in which we have over 300,000 Arkansans that are enjoying the benefit of health insurance they might not have had before, that we're going to be able to do this in a more cost-effective manner for the state. So I'm very confident we're doing the right thing as they proceed in Washington with their debate. There's a first part of your question, Andrew.
How quickly do you plan on signing?
I do plan on signing the legislation, and as soon as it's delivered from the House and Senate, I would expect to probably sign that tomorrow.
Governor, there was quite a bit of debate on the, I guess, SB 105 and SB 5 on the bond rating, and you had a discussion with it. You had some conversations with the S&P people, I think late last year about this. Can you give a sense of those conversations? And I guess, did they say specifically that we would get a AAA rating, or this would help in that process?
They said it would help. It wasn't, they're certainly not going to promise anything in advance, but that was the weakness that they found. And so last year I actually had an objective to try to work on our bond rating, because I knew this would save us money. It would look good nationally in terms of people looking at our state. And so whenever the bond raters came in, I asked to meet with them. I worked with our ADFA, Aaron Burks, but also DFNA. We met with them, and that's what they consistently pointed out was our lack of long-term reserve funds, or what they also called rainy day funds. I don't use that much because that means something else to the legislators, but it's the long-term reserve funds. And so clearly that was something that we couldn't get over until we created a fund and started putting money into it. Now, obviously, they've got to look at how sizable it is and how long of reserve that it will last in terms of downturns of the economy. But this is a very significant start toward that, and that will put us in the stage of have more conversations with our bond raters, and hopefully over time we'll be successful in that.
In the debate in the House, Ballinger was making reference to the issue of trust and whether you would spend the money or not. Did you have some discussions pledging not to spend that money?
Now, I didn't get to listen to all of the debate, so I didn't hear all of the conversation, but I talked to scores of legislators in the last few days, and because this is not, Arkansas Works, had been on the agenda for over 30 days. We had told them we were going to be part of that reform effort, but this came up, in a much shorter time frame, and so there's a long education process, and so there was a little bit of skepticism as to, well, what is the intent here? And as I shared with them that the original intent was to provide some flexibility and as well as the reserve funds, but as I talked with them, they really wanted to have the commitment to the reserve fund itself. And so we really put some tight constraints on that. A higher vote in the ALC, more legislative approval, but also it's very constrained as to the potential uses of it for emergency circumstances. It would have to be for those that are already approved in the RSA, the budget process of the House. There would have to be specific purposes with legislative approval. I expressed it's not my intent to use that money. Obviously, we don't know what the future holds, and it has to be there for unforeseen circumstances, but it is not my intent to use it or my desire to use it. I like it, be it in the long-term reserve fund.
Some legislators said they were concerned that a change in eligibility for Arkansas Works might cause an increase in uncompensated care costs of hospitals. How confident are you that that won't happen?
I'm fully confident that we're going to work every day in a smooth transition to move those that are moving off of Arkansas Works onto the exchange. Now, what absolutely is that we are moving them off of Arkansas Works, but they have an option for government subsidized health insurance at the same level they had on Arkansas Works. And so it is available to them. It doesn't cost them a dime more. We know that for sure. What we don't know is, how many will take advantage of that. And we're going to work toward a smooth transition so they'll take advantage of the exchange and a continuity of their health care. But we've got to work hard to make sure that happens. We know that some of them might go onto their employer insurance, which is a good objective. But we're committed to work diligently with our providers and our insurance carrier to make sure this is a smooth transition. And then secondly, by doing that, we want to make sure that any impact on our rural hospitals or uncompensated care is negligible, and I'm confident that we're going to do everything we can to make sure that happens.
The House also approved rules outlining procedures for impeachment in the wake of Judge Griffin, questions about his demonstration after the ruling of the conviction drug. Do you think impeachment is appropriate for Judge Griffin?
I think you got to separate all of that out. I think the only issue that they dealt with today was the rules to say we don't even have any rules in place in the event we ever want to use that constitutional responsibility. And so they adopted those rules. My reading of what in my conversation with the Speaker is that they may or may not ever use those rules. And so to me, it made sense for them to adopt the rules. And we will take it one step at a time after that. I certainly would not accept it that it was targeted at any particular judge, but we'll see how that plays out.
I guess separating that out, do you think the House should pursue impeachment against Judge Griffin?
I'm not going to comment on any specific use of the rule that they just adopted, and we'll see how that develops.
What do you think of Griffin protesting after the mention?
Well, I thought about bringing him a cup of tea, but no. I was pretty occupied at that time, and watching the protesters was not part of my focus.
Governor, what is people are drawing the conclusion of many coincidences that with this resolution, the fact, and several lawmakers during the debate on the House floor, they mentioned specifically Griffin and during this debate. Does that bother you that he's been mentioned specifically while the resolution was being debated on the floor? I didn't
hear the debate, so I'm not going to comment on that. This is a legislative function under our Constitution. I don't see a specific role for the executive branch, but there might be appropriate times down the road that I comment, but now is not the time to comment on that. Let's see whether this is just adopting rules for some unforeseen and unknowing event in the future, or whether it'll be specifically used, and at the appropriate time I'll comment on it.
So you're the titular head of the law department. Are you counseling legislators on whether to pursue this? Or you're just not telling us what you're telling them?
Well, when I'm asked by the legislators, and I've had conversations because they've obviously I have in terms of what they're doing, I've been advised of it. When asked, I give a comment, but those are confidential. I'm certainly not encouraging anything. But this is a legislative prerogative, and I've tried to give them the freedom. Obviously, I don't have any control over it one way or the other. This is their realm under our Constitution. And so, any comments that I made would very likely be as head of the party. As governor, I get asked comments all the time, questions about what's happening out there. I'm sure you're going to ask me again. So at the right time, I'll make a comment, but I'm gonna wait until a later time.
When you said you were happy that the legislation got bipartisan support, were you talking specifically about the Arkansas Works legislation?
Well, the Arkansas Works certainly was bipartisan in nature on the Senate side, particularly. The House side, not quite as much, but then whenever you looked at the long-term reserve fund, we had good Democrats voting for it on both houses. So I think that reflects that we're not coming in here and simply aligning by parties, but we're looking at legislation that is good for the state and making judgments. We all have different perspectives, but my comment about bipartisanship was directed that way.
Governor, you mentioned that you identified 9 levee breaches. Occasionally the state of Arkansas's levees has been a legislative concern. Has the current flooding changed your perception of that? Does the state need to be more involved in?
I think we're going to have to be engaged in the review of it. There's a lot of different parties to levee responsibilities. You have the individual landowners. You have levee boards that have been organized. You have the Corps of Engineers. You have local municipalities that are impacted by it, and the state as well. And so, I do think that there will be a very robust discussion about the levees and how they're maintained and how they work. And the Corps of Engineers, of course, will be a major part of that. So once the rain subsides and we get back to normal, I have no doubt but that we'll have to have a continued review of where we are with the levee system in Arkansas.
get any type of, what kind of aid is the federal government giving, or is there anything that talks with officials?
We have been in touch with the White House in general, and you know, right now it's all in a response effort. The federal role will come in subsequent to that in terms of the damage assessments that we provide, and I have no doubt but that we'll get a federal disaster declaration at some point based upon what I've seen in my experience, but that takes time. And so right now it's all about protection of lives and property, but I'll continue to have conversations with the White House, and I know that they'll be supportive as we need it. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.